Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Round Robin. I am your host, Tracy Preston, along with Christina Mulligan, Nina Mulligan, Regina Lindsay, Angela Sinclair, and of course, my husband, Todd Preston. Hey, everyone.
Hey. Hello. Hello. Hi.
Howdy.
I love the hello. It's hysterical.
Avon calling.
Hello, dealing. So this is our first episode of Round Robin for Season 4. And today we're going to be discussing Season 3, Episode 1, the show we did on Cathy Swartz. So this is a pretty horrible story, as they all are. But Cathy Swartz was a young mother. At the time of her murder, she had just an infant child. It's escaping me how old that baby was.
9 months old.
Thank you. I had 6 months stuck in my brain. Right,
Yeah,
so
9 months.
yeah. So she had a 9-month-old baby. She was engaged to be married, and all of a sudden someone came and knocking on her door and ruined her life, murdered her, ruined a lot of people's lives. Who should I pick on first? Angela wrote the show. This was, in fact,
Okay.
Angela's first show.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was it about this show that, kind of stuck out at you the most, would you say?
I think what really stuck out for me was the daughter. When she was older and I watched the interview with her, she went through a lifetime of hell. She felt like she had to have a weapon next to her bed at all times. And she was a mother too, and then she was afraid for her children because they never caught the person until way later. And that's what really struck home for me was the impact on just her alone. And Cathy's fiance, Mike, how devastated he was. And he seemed to be a really laid back, but just seeing the impact of that horrific thing, it was like, wow, it just affected so many people's lives. It was her parents and her ex-boyfriend and really the whole community. But that's what really struck home for me was the daughter and how it had impacted her life.
Yeah, and since you brought up Cathy's daughter, I wanted to also circle back to I was having feelings when, I was reading the show with Christine, and then again today when I was re-listening to the show. So Cathy's daughter was raised by Cathy's parents, and one of the things that just kind of really got to me was, when she was in first grade, the grandparents told her that, a bad man hurt her mother and that she was in heaven. And then when she was in fourth grade, they told her the details about it. Christine was telling me, well, kids are asking questions, what all the time. And I get that, but still, I don't know. I'm struggling with them telling a fourth grader all the nitty-gritty details of how their mother was murdered. Just from my perspective, I would have wanted to protect her a little bit because that little girl, from the time she was in first grade on, she knew something bad happened. And then in fourth grade, now she knows, my mom was stabbed and my mom was strangled and I think she was raped. I'm not 100% certain. Yes, she was, right? So I don't know, that I just have a really big problem with. It's like, just let her know that, your mom passed away. She's in heaven. And then when the little girl is much older, then, maybe I would tell her about it. But that whole thing kind of bothered me a lot. It still bothers me.
It makes you wonder if those details had been kept from her, maybe she wouldn't have had such a hard time growing up too. Mm-hmm. With that kind of knowledge in her.
That haunting.
Her brain,
yeah. I mean, what do you think, Christine? Do you still kind of feel like that was something they should have said to her?
I don't think they should have. I think that was unnecessarily painful, like unnecessary hurt, salt in the wound kind of thing. No?
Yeah.
I don't know. I get what you guys are saying. I disagree just a little bit in the sense that I don't know how big this town is, but it seems to me like anywhere you go in Michigan is kind of a small town. Even if it's kind of bigger than the next town, it's got that small town feel. And y'all's neighbors like to gossip, you know? And I don't know. I don't think I'd want my child to hear of her mother's murder from somebody else other than me.
Yeah, but she was young.
Yeah, but you know what? Kids are going to talk on the schoolyard. Kids are going to talk on the school bus. And how would you feel if she was on the playground and some kid who decided they wanted to be a bully was like, oh, yeah, but your mom was murdered and strangled and raped? I mean, because kids are assholes. And I wouldn't want my kid to be blindsided with that information where in an instant you can't protect them. You know, I'm saying it could be like age appropriate, I guess. I don't know, but I feel like she had the right to know because she was going to know whether she wanted to or not.
Yeah, but it was like the vibe that I got from the way they told her, kind of. It was like, I don't know.
Yeah, but I kind of agree with Nina on this one. You give information as much as you can in an age appropriate fashion. You know, I agree. You kind of start where, you know, Tracy was saying, you know, your mom's passed away and, you know, she's in heaven or whatever. But again, it's one of those situations where if you don't tell your story, someone else is going to do it for you. They're not going to do it in a manner that you approve of. And I would really hate for my child to feel, or my grandchild to feel betrayed that they had to hear about that from someone else in a very insensitive manner, and adults or children, because people will see that little girl walking down the street and be like, oh yeah, that's the one whose mom was murdered. And at some point she's going to overhear that.
I think I was saying the same thing as you just said when we originally did the story. But my take was like, as long as they did it age appropriately. Right, Trace? I think I said that.
Yeah, I think so too. And
I was like, yeah, like they should tell her and she should know because of the reasons what you're saying. But at the same time, I feel like it was a horrible thing. She could have went a little bit longer, a little bit older.
Yeah, just a more mature brain, you know.
Yeah.
To absorb it and understand it a little bit better, you know. I think when you're
in fourth grade, how
ninth
freaking
grade,
old are you?
9 years old, maybe 9, 10, somewhere around there. I don't know. That's still pretty. I mean, kids are still having.
It's boogeyman.
Yeah, kids are still having scary dreams, you know, and not really knowing how to deal with that.
Yeah.
I do agree with you, but then I'll bring up the example that, you know, I remember being molested at 3 and understanding that was not a good thing and needing to tell somebody about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, so do we really give kids enough credit to tell them the truth? Because if we don't tell them the truth and we don't explain things how it is in the actual real world, then what are they going to do when they get out there? We're raising them to leave our house and navigate the world. And I think you sugarcoat everything. Some things are difficult in life. And I think that's maybe where we've gone wrong. I feel like we now pussyfoot around so much that the subject really never gets talked about. I think we can be realistic with our kids. And, you know, if I can remember something horrific like that or understand the meaning behind being touched inappropriately, then I don't think it would be off base for a 9-year-old to navigate and understand the brutal murder of her mother.
I did want to say that, Nina, I do appreciate you bringing that perspective in because it does help me to see that side of the coin. You know what I mean? And you're right. You know, I'm looking to protect. And maybe I'm discrediting what a child can handle and what they can't. I just think it's heavy. And to you as well, Regina, to both of you guys, thank you for pulling in that perspective because I didn't even think about the little shits in the neighborhood because they are little shits.
And I know you're a mama bear.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So.
And I'm sure that they agonized over when was the appropriate time and how much information do you give and at what age. And I'm wondering if there wasn't something that prompted them to have that conversation at that time that we don't know about. Either she asked questions or started asking questions that they didn't know how to answer and were afraid that she was going to go and research it and find out on her own. Because at that age, you are starting to use the library more, and they're teaching you all about how to, read microfiche and all that fun stuff that you do in elementary school, learning the Dewey Decimal System back in the day. But, I'm wondering if there was not some kind of catalyst, a news story coming up on an anniversary. It was nearly the 10-year anniversary.
Oh, yeah.
If you think about that, and they're worried about, she's going to see a news report. Somebody's going to come up and ask a question about it. One of her friends is going to read the news article and ask her about it, so she should be prepared.
Another great point. I love it. And that's one of the things that's so cool about the round robin, is that we can really pull in all different lines of sight on that. So I appreciate that. Another point in the story that I still cannot for the life of me understand is, right, so consecutively while Cathy is being brutally attacked in her apartment, the neighbor who grabbed her child and just flew down the road and drove right into a river and died. I still, for the life of me, can't figure out what happened. That Robert Rodgers, did he attempt to get into her place? Did she have a near miss? What do you guys think about that? Do you remember that part in the story?
I feel like she probably heard what was going on, or maybe even walked up and saw the door standing open, saw something that scared the shit out of her, and she was hysterical. That's personally what I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense to me, too. She was just absolutely terrified and took off.
Right. Right.
She did the running in place, and then
she ran
caught her footing and went. Yep.
Yeah, she got her foot stuck and she couldn't get it off the accelerator.
Say that she got attacked first, and then she was
right.
And in her mayhem, that was an accident going into the lake.
Oh, that's true.
Or maybe she, was coming out when it all happened, and, he attacked her and she ran. We just don't know, but I think Christine had a very good point to that, because she was definitely scared of something to be going that fast.
Was this the same neighbor whose door had the pry marks, I wonder?
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I don't know, but it would make sense, wouldn't it? Crazy. And she died. The baby made it. That's awful. And then I want to talk about, so Troy, he was the one who everybody called him Harley, right? So that poor guy, his life is over because they were like, oh no, it's you, from the writing on the refrigerator, remember? Metallica. Mm-hmm. Harley was here. And then the whole leg thing again, where he wrote on her leg. And I thought about that again today, Christine, when we were talking about that on the show. How long does that freaking marker stay in your skin?
Right.
Right? Because it was a couple of months. I mean, and you think about it too, like I keep forgetting that they're all like 18 years old, 18 and 19 years old in your first apartment, having parties, that kind of thing. So it's like, hey, y'all went to school together, you're all hanging out. So, maybe that's why Troy was there, but still the whole thing writing on the leg. I mean, it's very juvenile, but they were. But if I was Mike Warner, I would have been pissed.
I'm just trying to imagine how I would explain my ex writing on my thigh, my fiance.
Your inner thigh, no less.
Right. Like, that'd be a hard sell right there.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. Okay, that notwithstanding, the answer to the question about the marker, how well moisturized was her skin? How often did she exfoliate? How much lotion did she use? Because those things will break down ink or whatever, but some of that other stuff, it'll stay for a long time, especially if your skin's dry.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and nothing, but we gotta also elaborate on her character overall. I mean, she was a young girl living out on her own, partying on the reg. Maybe she was, more or less a girl that you would, if you were her age, would consider her cool girl, which technically, AKA, means a little bit fast, a little bit slutty, a little bit wild. So, you know, it's not that far-fetched to be hanging out, getting trashed with all your young-ass friends, and your ex writing something on you because he thought it was hysterical, and then you end up, you know, having a small little tiff about it. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, you're an asshole, blah, blah, blah. You know, all of that kid stuff. They were still kids. They were still young.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So she might have been a little bit loose, and good on her. Good on her. I am not hating her for that.
Go get you some.
Exactly. Go get yourself some, girl. She's paying her own bills. She can do what she wants.
Oh.
I think another point too is I don't think that her and Mike had been together for very long. So maybe that party happened before her and Mike even got together. That might be another theory.
Yeah.
Valid point.
Because you're right, Angela. They were only dating for a couple of months before they got engaged.
Her character, maybe she wasn't the cleanest girl in the bunch. You know, maybe she liked a little bit of sebum oil. She was into it. Maybe she had dreadlocks. I don't know.
She did.
You're a mother. You remember what it was like having an infant. You hoped that you had 10 minutes to shower and wash your hair.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a single mom and you're home alone.
Yeah, your teeth are a little bit fuzzy and you're still in your pajamas at 8 o'clock at night.
True story.
Thanks for bringing us back to reality on how rough it is to be a mother of a young child, because it makes you a hot mess, for sure.
And it doesn't get a whole lot better after that. I'm just for at least the next 25 years or so.
It depends on the day. All
Like
right.
I said, I tell my daughter every day that my grandchildren are the universe rewarding me for not murdering her when she was a teenager.
What comes around goes around.
Oh my God, was that a proud grandma moment in the middle of us?
I am a Gigi. Thank you very much.
Oh, sorry. Was that a proud Gigi moment in the middle of nowhere?
Absolutely. Of course. All the time.
Gotta get it when you can get it.
I am a proud Gigi all the days. All the time.
All the times.
All the times.
That's awesome. I was just poking fun at you. I think that's awesome. I just thought it was funny. We're in the middle of talking about being a badass young mom, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm such a proud grandma.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, you know, that parenting children is a challenge from the beginning for the first 25 years, at least.
True story.
Sometimes even after that.
Agreed. So, who has a theory on how all of this went down? Right. So, Robert, the one we know killed her, finally he got busted 30 plus years later. I mean, I was thinking about this today. So, he comes over once, right? Oops, I ran into Mike at the grocery store. Why don't you guys come on over and say hi and hang out? So, they did. And then, you know, I don't think it was much longer after that initial visit that this dude just decided he was going to pop over there. I mean, him and Mike hung out all the time when they were kids. And this guy's thought is, I'm going to go see if I can get me some of that. Oh my God, round robin. Right back to what Christine was just saying, you know, maybe Cathy was a little fun girl. Maybe they made eyes at each other.
Yeah, or maybe he just thought that she made eyes at him.
Yeah.
You know.
That's a good theory too.
And Harley's writing on her leg, so he's like, okay, I can get that close at least.
Yeah, I heard about those
and
parties.
Maybe he was so hammered the night that they hung out that he mistook the neighbor's house for theirs, and that's why the other single mom took off in the car. Just saying, like, he decided to show up, thought that he was going to try to hit on her, and ended up at the neighbor's house because he didn't quite have it straight in his head which apartment it was.
Yeah, and think about it, too. Maybe he was stalking a little bit. He only saw her one night, and oops, there's a young mom with a little baby. That's another great point, too.
I think that he was also involved in other things, and maybe it started with her. maybe that was his first one, but there were other girls who were killed in the same way with scissors in the surrounding area during those few years. And they never said what he had gotten in trouble for, but he had been in trouble previously. And his girlfriend got him out of the state because she said, Michigan's no good for you. We need to get out of here. So maybe that was, not his first time.
Okay, I was about to say exactly the same thing. Was that I couldn't help but think when you were talking about the other similar murders, Tracy, that were in the general area, that he may have been involved in those as well.
Right, slip across the border, because that was in the other 3 murders were in Indiana, and I can't remember the city that this occurred in with Cathy, but it was a hop, skip, and a jump to get across the state border.
3 Rivers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, so it's like boom, boom, you're in Indiana. So who knows? Maybe he did what, I don't know what he did here. He got in trouble in Michigan, and he was in juvie or something, right? Because his brother said, oh, he did his time there, he was fine, and then his girlfriend wanted to get him the hell out of here. But who knows? Maybe he was slipping across the border doing those murders. Did they occur after Cathy's murder, around the same time?
I believe it was in around the same time that all that happened, within a couple of years.
Yeah, so maybe he was, had his little groove on, his little pattern of how he was going to do stuff.
Little trial run.
And was he packing those scissors? That's a great weapon you could just have in your car. Your girlfriend wouldn't think anything wonky about it.
Right.
My man just likes to cut some shit. He always needs scissors. I don't know.
Or he tried to attack her, and they were her scissors she was trying to defend herself with. Because she had been wrapping Christmas gifts.
It was Christmas time. That's true.
Or she was a hairdresser, and she was.
Or maybe his girlfriend that took him out of state. Maybe she was just like that wife of the guy that we just talked about not too long ago that killed the woman in Norfolk and also killed his daughter. The wife knew what the hell he was doing. The wife knew he had what she called demons because he told her he had demons. Maybe his girlfriend knew the same thing. The one that took him to Arizona, maybe she knew that he was messing around with other girls and murdering them.
Yeah, could have.
Yeah, I think she knew more than what she let on.
Definitely. I definitely think that. I think we even mentioned that when we first recorded this. I think we mentioned that she definitely had to know something. Something was up. Like, they didn't just leave all of a sudden just like that. I think he probably did it too close to home, and she was like, no, this was a big mess up. You can't do it too close to home.
Yeah, we got to split.
She was okay with the one in Indiana.
Right.
With the other crash at the same time, maybe it was just too much notoriety. Maybe he told her that he tried to get in the wrong apartment. Who knows?
And I would really love to know what in the hell he was thinking about. Was it a sadistic thing that he did by bringing Cathy so the baby could see her? Or do you think he did it thinking, oh, it'll calm the baby down if the baby can see the mother?
In his twisted infant mind, it probably was to calm the baby down. Or if she saw Mommy, she'd probably think Mommy was sleeping and it would calm her down. I would imagine.
Yeah, because I
Are you sure she didn't drag herself in there, crawling, trying to get to the baby?
I don't know how she could have, because I think she was murdered on the bed. Well, let's just talk about the events. The good friend of Cathy's was saying, Cathy always had that door locked. That door was locked no matter what. Even when she knew I was coming, it takes me 5 minutes to get there. She never unlocked the door for me. She knew I was coming. I have to knock. She'd ask her if there was a peephole, and then she would unlock the door and let her in. So right back to what Christine was saying about the fastness. Maybe she saw him and was like, oh yeah, maybe they had a date hooked up. What's his butt? He's at work. It's just me and the baby until he gets home at 3. He popped over there just before 11 or noon.
Well, that doesn't explain the neighbor's pry marks on the door.
Well, that theory just went out the window.
But maybe he showed up and knocked and she just opened it because, he'd been over there a couple nights ago. She didn't think anything of it.
Yeah, not really, because the pry marks may or may not have anything to do with it. That might be the other girl that drove herself into the river, and that might be completely different and separate. Because you said she locked the door all the time, and there was no broken entry, right?
No.
No.
So she knew him, opened the door, and was like, what the hell do you want? Or maybe she was like, oh, hey, flirty, because she was just a flirty kind of girl. And then things went horribly wrong.
Right.
We'll never know those details, though. It's fun to talk about, but we'll never know for sure.
I just like to spitball it.
Mm-hmm.
See if we can come up with a good plan.
I want to say of course, it's a tragedy that it took so long to get this guy, but the thing that really stuck out to me about the whole story was they got him with the footprint, a very uncommon clue, and how cool it was that they actually were finally able to get this guy, even after, 30-some years?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And all the footprints they did too, all the ones they did roll out, right? Even dead people.
They did thousands of footprints.
Mm-hmm.
And just the fact that they were down at the coroner's office or at the hospital or whatever, getting footprints on decedents, that's crazy.
That is absolutely crazy.
I'm glad that they did it. It's just wrapping my head around that.
Yeah, it gives me better feelings about police, especially after we just did the story that we did for our season 4 opener, when you got the bad cops, the dirty cops. This guy was a great cop. Like, hell no. This was a young murdered mother. He was devastated by the scene, knowing that the baby was there. And he was like, no, we're getting everybody, dead or alive. Give me a foot. I was impressed.
Okay, but just to kind of poke fun, he might not have been the smartest cop in the world, though, because his basis for how to catch his criminal was literally based on Cinderella.
That's all he had.
It worked, didn't it?
It sure did.
Eventually.
Nope, that's not your foot.
But that was a really long story.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I also was struck at how they didn't track down this Robert Waters in the first place. I mean, Mike admits that, oh yeah, we had this, a get together. I saw an old friend of mine. They came over, but he took off and moved right after Cathy was murdered.
That's a red flag.
That's a big red flag. I mean, for crying out loud, seriously, like, okay, what's this guy's name? They could have had that case solved, boom, right then and there. That just blows my mind that they never followed up on that. Mm. And I'm trying to think of the name of the genealogy group that they went to. And granted,
Othram.
Yes, thank you, Othram, which is a really strange name, but wow, how cool is that they can go back so far down your family tree that's how they caught this guy. Well, it belongs to one of this family right here. They have 3 boys. It's one of these boys.
I thought that was really, really cool. Just the technology and the advancements that we have now. And they even said that they have chances to solve these cold cases with DNA now because they can do that. And I just think that's really, really wicked cool.
Yeah, I do too. And I want to do one of those DNA tests. I don't care if they find someone who murdered someone. If I can help them find them, go for it. I don't care. How do you guys feel about?
I think now when you do those DNA tests, part of sending that sample and having it tested is signing basically a consent, because they inform you or notify you that law enforcement does have access to the database and can cross-reference, looking for suspects. So it's just interesting because this was probably one of the very first cases that something like this was used, and just seeing how it's evolved since then. I've watched several documentaries about cold cases that were solved using this technology. It's like, okay, well, it's somebody in this family tree, one of these cousins. It just blows your mind.
Yeah, science is so cool. Did you guys ever give your DNA to 23andMe and Ancestry? Is that anything you guys have ever done or are interested in doing?
I've done the Ancestry.com, and it was cool, but they changed my nationality every couple of months.
What?
My father did one. I guess I'm already technically in there. at least halfway.
Right. So you can't go committing any crimes without your shovel friends.
That's right.
And Lauren did one, and she's like, Mom, you got to do it. She did the 23andMe. And she's like, I have a small percentage of Egyptian in here. And if you do it, then we can connect and I can find, did I get that from you or did I get it from Dad? Yeah, I'm down. I'll do it.
And my dad found out some interesting information, too, that just sort of like, I guess, sort of makes sense when you think about it. I mean, my father's probably the whitest, blue-eyed guy you've met in a long time, has African DNA. And that's cool. It makes sense, though, being, you know, from the South, from the kind of culture that we come from down here.
Mm-hmm.
Makes perfect sense. But it's just not something that, you know, you would necessarily think of, or that I think he expected to find, because you're always told, you know, you're German, you're Irish, you're Scottish, whatever. Yeah, so you find out about parts of your family tree that you didn't know existed.
We gonna do that.
We should.
We're gonna.
So there.
Merry Christmas. We're gonna get our DNA in the DNA database.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, spit in this test tube.
Hock up a good loogie for me.
We'll put some mistletoe around the test tube.
Yes, absolutely. You know what? I am super pissed that, you know, once they finally got on the hot trail of Robert Waters, that, you know, here they had him in jail. They didn't watch him. And the son of a bitch hung himself before that little girl, who's now a woman, got to have her day in court with him. That really was not cool.
Well, I don't know. Maybe she doesn't agree with the fact that Michigan doesn't have the death penalty. Maybe that's what she wanted.
Could have been. Well, yeah, I'd be fine with him dying after I had my minute. Just like she said, I'm the one. I'm the baby. Like, look at me. You took my mother from me. So I feel really bad. I think her name was Courtney.
Yeah.
I feel really bad for her that after a lifetime of worrying and wondering when and if they were ever going to catch the person that did that to her mom, and then to finally find out, oh my gosh, they finally got him, and then, oh, he hung himself? That's nice.
Yeah, I feel bad for her on that one. On the other hand, there's part of me that thinks that it may have been better that she didn't come face to face with him. Now, I know that she wanted the closure, but I just don't know that she necessarily understood how she would react to it, because you don't know until you're in the situation. I also really feel bad for the two guys that were accused and lived with this for 30 years while they're trying to solve this case. You know, living under that cloud of suspicion. And even after someone else is arrested and convicted, there are going to be people that think maybe the three of them did it together. You know, people just get it in their head that you're guilty and they will never let it go.
Yeah, there's always going to be those conspiracy theorists with the wrong information.
Yeah, and that's what happened, right? I mean, Troy, our Harley guy, he basically just lives in a basement in his parents' house. Can't hold a job. He's completely messed up. I mean, how awful would it be to every time you go somewhere, everybody in your small town is looking at you, saying things behind your back or to your face? There goes the murderer. And the guy never did it. He had nothing to do with it. And the fiance, I mean, to see what he looked like in the, you know, of course he was younger. He looked like a healthy, nice guy. And then, you know, he's basically a homeless guy. Him and his dog. Like he's a mess. He's still a mess, I'm sure.
I mean, can you imagine the trauma of finding the woman that you love that way?
Mm-mm.
You know, your fiance. And then on top of that, spending the next 30 years with everybody pointing the finger at you. So you have no one that you can talk to about your loss, to process your grief, because everybody thinks you did it.
I just couldn't even imagine.
Well, if there is an instance where everybody thinks he did it, I don't know. You know, like, we can't just go based on the story we were told. If you want to look at all paths, you got to figure out all characteristics are possible of that person, right?
Yeah, like in the sense of would people be so apt to believe if it wasn't kind of already maybe in their minds that it was a possibility? I mean, like your reputation, your reputation kind of precedes you a little bit. You know, I don't know.
So in this case, I mean, maybe, yes, he did love her and they were adorable and they were adoring together and they were a great couple. But maybe before her, he wasn't so nice to other women. Or maybe after her, he wasn't so nice to other women. So, I mean, we don't know that. Because other than that, like, him, not only the fiance, but that other guy, too. The one that ended up living with his mother forever, and things didn't turn out so well for him either because he was under that cloud of suspicion. Maybe they were both good guys, and it's a poor story, and it's horrible. But then you gotta ask yourself, well, what kind of people were in the community? Were they all assholes and idiots? That they wouldn't feel bad for these guys and come together for these guys if these guys were worth coming together for? Like,
True.
that's where it starts to get a little dicey.
Thank you for working that out for me, Ben.
Teamwork.
On point.
Are you serious? Like, in the world that we live in, you're going to ask that question. People will believe what they hear repeatedly. And especially if somebody's looking at that relationship going, oh, they seemed like such the perfect couple. Maybe it was too good to be true. There's always going to be somebody. There's going to be your little group of conspiracy theorists. Even if there's no evidence or no past knowledge of that person to draw from, it's just going to believe the worst.
But it's also statistics, too. I mean, statistically speaking, the fiance is usually the one, or the husband's usually the one, or the boyfriend's usually the one. So it wouldn't be out of the scope of the police to suspect her fiance.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
But apparently the fiance and this other guy that were accused, and the conspiracy theorists got together and decided that they were guilty, equally guilty, obviously, if they were hammering them both, and kind of the whole neighborhood was bullying them both. But let me get back to Regina. So you answered my question. I said, what is the whole town full of assholes and idiots? And then you went in to tell me that everybody's going to believe what they hear over and over instead of what they see with their own damn eyes. So, yes, I guess that neighborhood was full of assholes and idiots. Because as a human being, how do you see other human beings deteriorating in front of you and still keep mocking them and spreading stories about them instead of going straight to them and saying, yo, what's going on? I mean, tell me what happened. And then he'll tell you his side of the story, that nothing happened and he didn't do anything. And he professes all of this, and then have that person that went to him with curiosity instead of judgment, let them spread the word that, okay, listen, we don't have to be assholes and idiots. We could just be a community and come back together after this horrible event, and we got the guy. But then again, I digress, because they never got the guy for how many years, Trace?
30 plus years.
Yeah, so for 30 years, these guys lived under suspicion with no answer. So that's where the lies and conspiracy theories perpetuated, because everybody was afraid to just talk directly to them.
Well, it's also like Occam's paradox, right? So all things being equal, the simplest answer is the correct one. So everybody, whether they wanted to believe it or not, probably just over time was like, well, yeah, most of the time it's the boyfriend or the ex-boyfriend. And so, just made it hard for them to live down. But I actually was reading an article earlier about the psychological impact of being wrongfully accused. And it is very common for people to not be able to maintain relationships, to not be able to hold a job. There are a lot of psychological effects that are associated with the, I guess, PTSD, from living under that cloud of suspicion forever.
Yeah, it's very true and very possible. It's like learned incompetence. When you're told repeatedly over and over again, and you keep trying and failing, then you just stop trying. So I'm kind of likening, to be under a cloud of suspicion for that long and keep trying to get out from under it you can't get out from under it, so you just give up trying.
Yeah, and the court of public opinion will rip you to shreds. Because think about it, young, old, the looks, the talks, plus, like you mentioned, Regina, as well, the PTSD, for crying out loud. I can't even imagine how bloody it was. The scissors cut through her carotid artery and her jugular vein. I mean, that place must have been ungodly bloody.
He was the one that discovered her?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he went home for lunch. Or, no, I'm sorry, I have that wrong. He went to work, like, super early, so he got out at early. Like, I think he got home at 3, but they figured that she was murdered around noon. And so he thought it was odd. He went to go get it into the house, and he's like, put my key in there, and didn't really feel like it was locked. And then from there was just blood everywhere, handprints on the wall, going up the stairwell, all over up there. And then, of course, I couldn't even imagine the bloody scene in the bedroom. And with all that, right, so I can't, I'm trying to piece it in my brain. Where did all this happen? Did it happen in the foyer? Did it happen in the living room? Did they sit down and talk and chat for a minute? Wherever and however those scissors came out, he must have got her good downstairs, or at least maybe not in the neck until upstairs, but somehow she was bleeding pretty good, got herself upstairs and was trying to make a call. And, he took those scissors and cut that phone cord. Boop, you're not calling anybody. And then it was just a vicious, did he rape her there and then kill her?
Yeah, I mean, I really forgot about that part. And I think we did talk about it then. It really does sound like he just came in and started attacking her. So maybe this guy has a penchant for necrophilia. Maybe he likes to kill them first and then have sex with them. And maybe she tried to run from him because she was going to her baby.
Yeah, because the dead don't say no, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. I do however I want. You're going to be quiet about it.
Disgusting.
That is horrible. That necrophilia is disgusting. Ugh. Well, I think we kind of come at this at every angle. Did we leave any stone unturned anybody wants to chat about?
I just have one thing. They were comparing footprints and fingerprints and all of that. And the two guys were cleared. Like, their footprints and their fingerprints did not match. So why, after 35 years, were they still suspects? Nobody else that had been fingerprinted or footprinted were suspects. They didn't even consider it, just these two guys. And that's kind of something that I was thinking about, like, why? I don't have a theory on why, but you know what I'm saying?
I do.
Everybody else was innocent, but these two guys were suspected, even though their footprints and fingerprints didn't match. Why?
Well, that's why Nina and I were talking about how it's possible, that maybe it was in that character. Maybe other people had, issues with them.
Right. Or to your point, the rest of the town were just assholes.
Sure. Assholes and idiots, most probably.
Yeah. And you know what, Angela, I'm going to run with that a little bit more of what you just said, because re-listening to the show today, they were even though Troy's fingerprint and footprint didn't pan out, and so they had to clear him on that. Then they circled back around later on, and years later, we're like, I bet Troy had help. I bet it was his dad that helped him. Mm-hmm. Right? But then
exactly.
Right?
Because that's where everybody's head goes. It's like, okay, well, I mean, the most obvious answer is it's the fiance or it's the ex-boyfriend. And if their footprint and fingerprint don't match, it doesn't mean that they weren't there. It just means that they didn't leave the footprint or the fingerprint. They were probably there and helping. That's the way people think when they get too fixated on, you can't see the forest for the trees, right? It's that obvious suspect right there in front of you, and you don't want to believe that it could be some mystery guy that came to the house one time and then moved out of state.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And, when the cops were, because I think that the dad of Troy had recently died when, they came up with this theory that, maybe Troy went home and got his dad and this and that. The coroner's like, hell no, you're not doing his foot. Skedaddle. They even tried to get the Troy's dead father's footprint, and he's like, no, not today, not here.
Them though, they should have just let them.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they didn't, but
Might have been a big clue why he was never exonerated, because they had a theory about his dad, and then they refused the dad's footprint.
yeah. Well, and it was the coroner that refused to let him in to do it. You
Well,
know.
then the coroner is suspect number one in the conspiracy theory.
He was with them. He was there.
It was the coroner.
But you know what, though? It's interesting because even when somebody is acquitted in our system, there are still people that will refuse to believe
that they didn't
do it.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, like, look at OJ, for instance. There's a lot.
Come on, he did
He
it.
totally did it.
Look at Jean-Benet's parents. I mean, they were pretty much.
They did it.
They didn't go on trial, but, you know, in the court of public opinion, they're still guilty, you know.
Because they are.
What's the girl that killed her daughter?
Her kid from the get-go.
Kaylee Anthony. She was acquitted. Yet
And she
people still think
totally
she's
did
guilty.
it.
Because she did do it.
I'm just saying, people have preconceived notions based on the evidence that they're presented. So
Well, you
maybe
use all
the
bad
boyfriend,
examples.
maybe when the boyfriend and the ex-boyfriend were up for, you know, their thing, maybe some people said, yeah, that's kind of plausible. I don't know. I'm just saying. You're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Exactly.
On either
And
side.
while we're talking about all these people that we know absolutely did it, I just want to take this opportunity to point out that according to this article I was reading about, again, the psychological effects of being wrongfully accused, about 15.4% of convictions are wrong.
Ouch.
Yeah, people they want the bad guy. If they don't have the answer, we'll take the one that's closest.
Give me something. This case needs to be solved.
Yep.
And people always, when they hear hoof prints, they think it's a horse. And they forget that there are zebras and gazelles and deer and moose and all those other things with hooves.
There's a bunch of other things with hooves on them, damn it.
Exactly.
Yeah, but if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck and talks like a duck,
It could be a platypus.
it's probably a duck.
It could be a platypus. I think the platypus is the exact place that we're gonna end.
Interesting. Did you know that platypuses
Here we go.
are poisonous?
It's a good ending.
Wait, say what? Hold on, Todd's got some data.
Platypuses are venomous.
What?
Listen, last time we called Todd to the carpet about mailing babies, he was freaking right. So I'm just gonna have to go with it and say,
they are venomous?
yeah. Are you Google
They are?
Queens looking something up?
No, they are. Of course they are. That's what makes them badass.
They are badass.
What?
I had no idea a platypus was poisonous.
Fuck the honey badger, okay? That's real.
So they bite you like a kimono dragon and follow you? What?
I don't know. I didn't read that far into the article. I was on the toilet, so
It's apparently connected to the hollow spurs on their hind legs.
Huh.
The venom.
Walks like a duck and kills like a cobra, bitch.
Platypuses are poisonous. Hot damn. Venomous. All right. Oh, that was a great discussion, guys. We went from Cathy Swartz murder to platypus and hooves and venom. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much. This was a great round robin. I hope you guys have a great week, and we will see you again next Monday for Malice in the Mitten. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
see you later.